Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Before I get into this video, I'd like to ask you all to please leave a like or comment on my video and consider subscribing to my channel. Now, I'm going on with the Remastered series and I'm actually going to do multiple videos all at once and have them scheduled to launch at different times on different days. Sorry about that. So let's get into this here right now. So if you ever see any of these remastered videos past the Wednesday update and they don't have updated information, that's likely because they were pre-made videos. Somebody did ask to see how good I can do with scripts, so here I go with the scripted video. And these are some of the major problems that I face when it comes to updates and so forth. So here you go, you're gonna see what a scripted lineup looks like. Okay, so the first thing to note about the Hurricane prototype is it is a medium missile option. Sorry, not medium missile, a medium cannon option for the battle cruisers. Now, as you can see, it has multiple bonuses and it has a plus 5% flight velocity bonus per command bonus. That means if you max it out, it has 25% more speed. Added to its 200, that will give you about 250. So it's about as fast as a regular cruiser. And that is before you add in any upgrades to the ship like your navigation. So with navigation and with let's see, with an afterburner or so forth, you're going to get a lot of power on this vessel, allowing you to travel really fast. So let's look at everything that's needed to make this here PvE ready once more. Now, one of the other things to note is they have improved the overall defense of this vessel by quite a bit. In the past, it only used to have 20,000 defense. Right now, it's sitting almost at 25,000. That is about a 25% increase in its overall defense. So let's go look at its basics. Now, this is an armor tanking vessel, if I am correct. Yes, I am correct. No, it's very close. It's a shield or armor tank, depending which way you want to go. They're about the exact same on power. And yeah, that's just about it. It purely depends on which way you want to go with this build. So let's go look at it once more. So with everything that's on the Hurricane prototype, here are a few things to notice. It has 6 weapon slots, 1 drone slot, 3 mid slots, 5 low slots, and then the 6 rigs that make up its combat capabilities. Now, just like all of these, in order to go into PvE, remember these are PvE remastered builds, they aren't meant for PvP. If you are going to run a Hurricane in PvE, you're going to have to build it up in such a way that it can actually tank the damage. Now, this is one of the more unique vessels in a way because you could make it tank damage in 2 ways. That means you can speed tank and you can do the regular activities. That isn't really going to help you much with the current target painter modules that have come in, so speed tanking isn't going to be super efficient. So let's go through with what we want to put on the ship. So first of all, to make the ship super efficient in terms of combat, you are going to use your long range cannons. Now the reason for long range cannons is pretty simple. Sorry, you simply don't want to get too close to the new frigates because the new frigates will definitely disrupt your ship and make you take a massive amount of damage in a very short amount of time. Plus, they interfere with the distance and range of your weapons. So, with your max distance on these weapons taking you out beyond 40 kilometers, the range you want to keep on all ships during the fight is around 30 to 35 kilometers. Don't breach those limits even if you can. Stay within those limits and fight the ships. It is the best overall position for any ship to have. Now, it does have a rather small power grid on it, and if I am correct, cannons have a little bit of a higher energy signature than other weapons. So let's just close the smalls. If I am correct, this isn't the right type of cannon. No, this isn't the right one. Sorry. Yeah, I'm used to seeing Jolt. These are auto cannons. These are the faster firing cannons. So let's see what the bigger cannons are like. Okay, so here we go with the correct one, the strike cannon. As you can see, my stats are slightly lower. They're about 139 apiece. Now, equipping 6 of these will basically take out your standard power grid on the ship. So, 6 strike cannons and you are out of power. Now, that is on the standard model for the ship, but understand that there are slight differences on how you make up this vessel. The 139 times 6 is going to take you just over 824. So that includes your excess power grid added to this just to get your weapons on. Remember that you're going to have to improve this power grid in order to add on the other weapons that you want. So a capacitor, okay, in your power rigs, you are going to increase the power grid of the ship and the capacitor on the ship for an overall stable recharge and fire capability. A lot of players don't run the long range only, they always pair it with another type of weapon. So let's see what the smaller one was, just to look at the price. 112. That would have been way easier to fit into the build, and considering that the ship only has 785, with the addition of your uh, engineering, if you go beyond 25%, you're still not getting 200 extra, you're only getting a small amount extra. So before we go into the mid slots, let's go down to engineering, because engineering is going to play a very important part on where you go. So over here for this one here, you need to improve the power grid. Here it is. Remember, power grid 3 is now available. A 12.5% boost to your power grid. Now that isn't quite a big boost. With everything added, all of your engineering, this is only going to add about 120 extra to your power grid. So be very careful about running the ship. If you don't balance your power grid properly, you won't be able to fight very efficiently. Now, here's what you're going to need in your low slots. Now, with everything added, you should have about 1,000 worth of power. That means you're left in about 180 power left to power up your low slots. And once you add in things like the capacitor battery increase, you have about 250 added total, and that is where you are sitting with where you can put everything on in low slot. So be very careful about your low slot. It is going to cost you quite a bit in terms of power. So with 250, you can always use the double shield booster model. Now the double shield boosters aren't really going to hurt you too much. As it is, they are only 55 each. That's 110. That will leave you with about 210 left going through with the rest of your build. Now you could swap this out for rigs in your armor models. However, the armor model rigs are a little bit more expensive in terms of their power grid usage. So we're going to stick towards shield rigs for that purpose. Now moving down, if you aren't going to go with the double shield booster model, you can always go double adaptive invulnerability field. So the double adaptive invulnerability field is going to increase the amount of damage you can take. Even though there is a slight penalty on the second one, it is still worth it to have the double on. It makes your ship really tanky. Now this is going to improve the amount of damage your ship can take, and I am going to suggest it for most people running the Hurricane. So double adaptive modules is going to help you uh, a big chunk. Let me just go to the armor repair and show you why this is so much heavier. If I am wrong, I will adjust to give this as also a possibility. There you go. Just one is 111 megawatts. It does repair quite a bit of your armor, but the fact that you're already in your armor in one of those activities means that you're also under pressure by quite a bit, and running this module over something more power stable will be a little bit more heavy for you overall. Now with this current setup that I have been going through, you only have about 110 taken at max, 112 if you're adding in the shield hardness. So let's go into a shield extender. Now this is one of the reasons why I am doing this here. The only reason I'm adding shields to the ship is we want it to last as long without it taking out the power grid. 75 megawatts for the biggest shield extender we can put on the ship. So the 75 megawatts is now going to reduce the amount that we have. We just in that last little aspect of the power grid, if we were running with just one and double modules. We have about 100 megawatts left on this entire ship. So let's go all the way down to, sorry, afterburners. Now there is a catch with the ship. Due to the heavy usage of the cannons, if you were to swap out your cannons for short range cannons, you might be able to change up your ship's fittings. There you see 83 megawatts. This here basically cuts you off from being able to go any further. You're basically at the extent of your modules. That is an extender, a booster, and a double harness with the addition of the afterburner. Running anything else on this ship will be very heavy in terms of power control. Let me just show you why you can't run a capacitor battery as well with this. The medium type capacitor battery costs 83 megawatts on the power grid. You would have to have advanced or expert engineering done on the ship in order to accommodate this, and that is a very big stretch from where we are. If you are at that level, you can swap out one of your adapters for the capacitor battery, but if you aren't at that level in the engineering, I would suggest you stick with the double adapter format just because you're trying to keep the power grid stable. Now as for the mid slot, it's going to run the exact same as any other ship. Tracking disruptor or guidance disruptor depending on which enemies you're facing. The next thing on this here is going to be your Weber Fire. Keep a Weber Fire if you're going to run with the Weber Fire. Remember, you can double certain modules and you can skip any one of these modules that I'm going to give. So Weber Fire, Tracking Disruptor, they're all in electronic warfare, so it makes no difference. So the Weber Fire was the first that I mentioned. The Warp Disruptor doesn't help you in terms of PvE, so it's of no use. Warp Scrambler will help you against micro warp drive enemies, but also not really too important. Sensor Dampener will only help you in the start of a battle. It's better for PvP. Tracking Disruptors will always help you. Target Painters will always help you attack your targets more efficiently. And Guidance Disruptors will also help you with taking less damage. So remember how they work. If you're going to go up against laser enemies and you know they're going to overwhelm you with numbers, you can run double Tracking Disruptors and disrupt the lasers. If you're going up against missiles, double Guidance Disruptor will stop the missiles. It will also affect railguns if I am correct, so that is where you would use it depending on which enemies you are facing. Now the Target Painter is always there for you to use to ensure that you do enough damage to get rid of enemies quickly. So you can double up any one of them. You can run the Weber Fire in case anything gets close to you, so you can pin it down and destroy it faster. Those are all the options you have. You can double if you know you are too slow. If you decide not to go with the afterburner and to add more shielding to your ship, that is something else you can do. You could have taken out the afterburner and added in the capacitor battery. You could take off the afterburner and you could add in another shield booster to give you that extra amount of shield. Obviously, running into armor will be an entirely different story. Now, if you were going to use something like Nosferatu to boost up your capacitor and keep yourself stable, it is a bad idea right now if you are going into these advanced opponents. They have heavy drain themselves, so your Nos is going to be countered by their Nos, and they will also be neutralizing you at those distances, so it's a bad idea to go for those settings. So that is where you are sitting with the ship. This build isn't ideal for PvE due to its low power grid, and even though I do have other ship builds that are stable with similar power grids, that's because they are running missiles which are very very low on their power grid requirement. So due to the high power grid requirement of the long range combat, it is advised that you don't try and overload the system to keep yourself armor stable. Armor will do very well against laser weapons. If you are going to go the armor route, remember that you don't have the option of doubling many things and you can't run any extenders. Armor plate extenders are also quite heavy on power grid, and running it in conjunction with armor repairer won't be easy. So think of that before you run the build, and that is where we are in terms of our regular fittings. Now in the rigs, I have only given one rig that has to be there, and that is the power grid rig for your ship. Now, following around the power grid rig, you are going to put on the increase in capacitor by 20%. Now, this is something to be very noteful on. You have three options when it comes to this. If you know that you aren't fast enough and you're going to get drained, if you know that you're not fast enough and you're going to get drained regularly, the one thing that you can do is you can actually run a slight amount of acceleration. So the acceleration rigs will help you. In this case, that's a navigation rig. Acceleration will help you because this is a little bit faster of a vessel. However, if you want to keep yourself more cap stable and are willing to risk the energy neutralizers and drains, you can also add the additional recharge onto your capacitor, making your recharge cap a lot faster. Now, each one has its pros and cons. The one allows you to sit too close to the combat. If you take on anything beyond a medium, or if you take on inquisitors, even in groups, they'll be able to drain you out in a matter of seconds. So remember that there is the warning on it. If you're running with the accelerator, you can escape a lot of the ships, but you don't always have that advantage of being able to recharge non-stop. Now, moving on, the rigs for building up your resistance. Now, you're going to do the increase in shield booster. So, first thing you're going to do is improve your shield booster by the shield booster 3 rig. So, increase in shield booster and shield extender rig. Now, there is two options on the last rig that you're going to fit here. You're either going to put in the reduced capacitor requirement, so that will reduce the capacitor need for the ship, or you are going to improve it against the type of damage you are facing. Example, going up against lasers, you're going to put up the anti-EM. So all of this is very important for changing up how you fight the enemy. So those are all of the little changes that were needed. I hope that you all enjoyed this video, and thank you all for watching. Now, I didn't go through the rigs because they get very confusing, even though I do know where they are. And there was the other option of switching over the defensive shield rigs to defensive armor rigs if you were running an armor setting. So that was it. Thank you all for watching. Have a good day.